Hello little people, I'm just doing some paint mixing at the moment prior to getting ready to do a little bit of airbrushing. I haven't actually got my airbrush out yet, which is bad planning, isn't it? I thought I'd got everything ready to go, and then I've realised I've not got the airbrush loaded or hooked up to the air supply. So just give me a minute. I've got the paint mixed. I've got a little dark green mix that I've got ready. That's going to go down the side here and just mute off that. That's going to mute off the bright green vegetation that I've got in there. So I'm just going to filter off some paint that I've just mixed. It's a very thin mix, so I want to. I don't want to sort of flood it with pigment. I just basically want to cover the green with a different shade. Oops. Right, so I don't mind if I waft some of it away either. It is a little sparse, so my arm's just going to come in here. I'm just going to change the colour. It's just thin enough so it can just mute everything down a little bit. And if we get a little bit of overspray onto the walls, then so be it. Oops. Let's just try and change the orientation a little bit. So my arm's going to end up coming in and being the subject of focus. I don't know if I can change that. Just a little bit, but just enough to take the brightness down. I think that's okay. I've got a little bit on the other side of the path to do as well, so I'm just going to have to mix up a little bit more, because typically I didn't mix enough. And then once I've done that, I'm just going to paint the platform edges a slightly lighter colour before moving on to adding some ferns onto the walls. So again, I'm just going to mix some paint off camera. Just recently bought some airbrush thinner, and it's only a small bottle. I should probably have bought a lot more, because you, even though you buy airbrush paint, you still need to thin it a bit, and I go through so much. I've also invested in some little microfiber cups, which help immensely. Just add a little bit of shade onto there so it's not as bright green. Wafting everything with the airbrush does tend to mute everything down. Let me just try and lift you over the garage. Sorry guys. So we're just going to go into this little area here. I've got some more greenery down at the base of the wall. I can just come over the top. And again, it's a little bright. So with a blast of the airbrush, I can just mute everything down a little bit. And then coming down into the back of the wall there. It's spraying absolutely everything, and it's just picking up most of the bright green foliage. So while I'm down this end, I'll just spray the foliage there a little bit, and I think we can, well, I've got some paint left in the tub, as it were, in the cap. I'll just give this an overall covering. I'm going to come back to those ferns because they need a bit more attention. Just coming over the whole landscape with the airbrush gives it an overall shading that sort of blends everything in. Oh, we've got comedy fall on the floor there. That's because I've not got the best of phone holders. Please excuse me for the one person that's watching. And there we go, that's run out of paint quite nicely there. So I just give the inside of the brush a swill of water, get it mostly clean. Just doing that off camera, and then we'll come to the platforms. I just want to get it mostly empty, ready to properly wash next time, so I can turn all that off for now and come back to the platforms. I just wanted to get that quickly done before I properly got dug in. Okay, so now we're down this end of the layout, as it were. I might as well start off on this part of the platform. So over here, I'm going to use some paler stone colour. This is Citadel Terminatus stone. I'm going to do the dry brush technique, except this is actually airbrush paint. So I'm going to have to wipe a lot of the pigment off because it's going to be quite wet. See how this looks. So my original stone colour was a little bit too dark, shall we say. So this is quite good. I don't mind if I go over the tarmac a little bit. I'm afraid my arm's in shadow from the overhead strip lights, but I just want to make those stones pale. I think you'll get a better view of what sort of colour I'm achieving when I move across to the other platform, down the other end of the layout. Some loose bits of foliage and gravel floating around still, so I'm going to have to get the vac out again. I've already done it this evening, but it's like a never-ending task. Just trying to remove all the little bits of debris from the line. Good evening, Lee. How are you doing? Still haven't glued that down, it's still floating. Good evening, Willow Creek. How are you? Are we having a good weekend so far? It's certainly quite wet in my neck of the woods. More so this evening. I was planning on having a good afternoon session in the garage today, doing a bit more construction work. But all I've managed to achieve really is wiring up underneath a little bit better, because I was, even though wiring up isn't my isn't my aspect of this job. The client has said he wants to do all the electrics himself if I just leave droppers on each rail. He's going to make all the electrics work, but I just had to get it connected just to see if it was going to work, because I've obviously done a lot of weathering on the rails, etc. And so, because I've had to do painting on the rails, I've had to clean them all and just make sure everything runs. So I'm quite pleased with the connectivity. I have managed to get it up and running, and I've also managed to connect the lighting for inside both the station house and the signal box. So everything's electrically connected now. And even though this is, I've only got an analog DC engine to run on the layout as a test, I've wired it up as if it was DCC. But I am pleased to say that all lines are fully functional right now. I am going to run another layer of black wash over the top of the platform panels just to mute them off again, but the underlying base colour was a little bit too beige, I don't know, not bright, it's not light enough. Sometimes there's a little bit too much paint to put on the brush in the first application. I forget it's quite a damp paint because it's airbrush formulated as opposed to a dry pigment paint, which is the better paint for dry brushing. And I might just need to go over with a scribe or a knife between each of the coping stones, platform edging stones, just to differentiate them a bit better, because they're not as pronounced as they were. Yeah, there's still a little bit of loose foliage, leaf work at the base of the platforms that's not been fully secured. But I'll just glue those down, I think. Right, I'm quite happy with that, so I'm going to move down the other end of the table now. So you'll just have to excuse the shift around the garage for the moment. Here we go. You can see the extent of the mess that I operate in. I just need to get a decent, there we go, decent hold. I've disconnected the power lead for the phone, so I'll have to make sure I connect that back up again. Otherwise I'll be going offline at some point. Sorry, I tried to plug the power lead in. There we go. Right, same again. I'm going to use more dry brushing, except I've left my pot down the other end. It's a long way to reach. That's just me wiping the excess paint off the brush. So it's just a small dry brush. I'm just adding a little bit of lighter texture to the capstones, the platform edging stones. I actually damaged this stone, the one that I'm just painting now, with my soldering iron, because it's I've made it from Foamex, so it melts under heat. When I was wiring another dropper in that I'd forgotten, but I decided the scar that it left looked kind of like a realistic looking stone chip. So I decided rather than try and hack it back out again or fill it, I'd just leave it as it was and let my paint techniques sort of enhance it. So like I say, I'm just going to carry on going over this, and once it's dry, I will probably use a scalpel to rescore the gaps between each of the stones, and then I'm going to put a very weak black wash over the whole lot of it again, just to tie everything down, mute it down a bit more, and accentuate those gaps between the stones. Unfortunately, this board couldn't accommodate the entire length of the station, and I'm going to end up with part of it on another board, or at least the platform edging anyway. So one main painful task really is going to be matching up the coloration so it continues to the next one. It's a question of remembering colour recipes. Actually a little bit too strong, that, so I'm just going to wipe a bit off of it with a piece of kitchen towel. It's not a kitchen towel at all, it's a piece of blue roll. Normally it'd be kitchen towel, but I've run out of kitchen towel at the moment. It's still a bit strong on the brush, you know. But the reason why I'm dry brushing it is because I want the sort of underlying shading from underneath the bits I've already done to show up. So it's just creating a slightly desaturated version of the edging. And I've just got about 30 centimetres more to do. Just trip over the boxes in the garage, as you do. I'm getting a bit too far to reach now, so I'm just going to go around the other side. Okay, quite happy with that, that'll do. I've covered enough of that. And now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to look at some ferns. More ferns. Just try and get the camera angle. There we go. So I've got another tub full of laser cut ferns that I've made. It's quite a few. Using Morrison's soured cream. I'm going to just use some PVA glue to get those applied. just needed a drink of tea. So I've just got some PVA sealer. I do know sealer. I've got some PVA sealer. Also, it's PVA glue. It's just used as an adhesive and a sealer. And I'm just going to put some dots of glue all up this hillside now to be able to stick my bits of bracken onto. Fern, bracken. It's either or, isn't it? Just coming into some of the little holes in the foliage. And it's completely random, really, where I'm putting it. I'm just going to try and build up a little bit of an interesting foliage area. I mean, it's already sort of quite well populated. I could possibly leave it as it is. Oh, do you know one thing? No, never mind. I was going to say I've completely forgotten to bring the tweezers with me, but I haven't. They're here. So I'll just lift out the ferns as they come out and just literally place them into the glue. So I'm laying them flat for now, or initially, and then I'll just, with my tweezers, prod the centre of them into the glue that I've put down. And some of them just have a little bit of leftover in the middle, leftover sort of paper that's not part of the design. So I just gently tease that out with my tweezers, and like I said, then just pop the fern into the glue. I don't know if I'm close enough for you actually to see it clear enough. I might try and zoom in after I've stuck them down. They are really quite delicate, these, because they're laser cut from paper, and I've used a very, very sort of fine design. They are really quite small indeed. Try to focus. Can we focus on it? Not really. Sorry about the distant barking. The neighbours just let the dog out. I don't mind if some of them break off, because nature's very seldom uniform. So we've just got lots of little leaves poking out of the grass there. Just unclips a little bit, just to zoom in so you can see. There we go. I just can't get close enough. You're waking and building in the layout. Excellent stuff. Building together then, are we? So I'll just shift that pot there, see if it can focus any better. can't get my holder close enough to give you a nice zoomed in. Can I pinch? Yes, I can. I can pinch zoom a little bit. Is that any better? Still quite out of focus, that bit, isn't it? Try once more, just to see if I can get the camera in any better into that area. I need a new one of these holders. It's just not up to the job. No, it's not too bad. That's not too bad. Let's get a few more. Let's get a few more dropped in and coming into the foreground here. It's quite full of. Thank you. It's quite full of trees, this area, in real life. But we're doing a bit of a compromise. We're sort of changing the foliage around a bit so it's more low-lying than sort of big looming trees. I haven't got very many cut, so I'll probably just exhaust what I've got before I then think about what I'm going to do as the next stage. I really need to start work on the roadway in front of the station approach. I've also got some fences to stick in, so I might get that stuck down as well. I mean, I will add some trees. It's always nice to put trees in. Just squash as much as I can into the glue here. Now, I think I've spoken about this on live before. I don't know if I did or not, but these ferns aren't quite the right colour. But I've laser cut it straight out onto a green paper, but it's the only paper that I could find at sort of short notice, and it's not quite the right shade. So I'm just going to embellish that with some acrylic paint when it's finally dry. It doesn't look too bad. Just come down a little bit. Now this very edge of the board I still need to sort out and fill in some gaps. This is the bit that then mutes, that then blends in with the next board, so the edges need to be perfect. I've just kind of made it on an ad hoc basis. Wasn't really thinking too hard about how it was going to work onto the next one. But I'll probably put some filler in. Can we actually see where am I? Am I off camera? I'm off camera a little bit, sorry. Just working slightly above where we are. Neighbours are in the hot tub next door. We have new neighbours, and they're in the hot tub, and I don't really want to hear them, nor do they want to hear me, I expect. So it's all this area here that I need to fill in properly. I need to put a piece of plywood against it. I think I'm going to end up cutting a few hundred of these ferns, because they really do enhance the foliage and make it look quite realistic. Takes a little bit of time to cut, because there's lots of intricate little cuts but I think it's worth the time. Now you can either just lay these one at a time as they are, or sort of layer them on top of each other to create a bit more intricate growth. Or a bit more of a fuller growth. That's the phrase I'm looking for. That's a leaf that's broken off. I'm just trying to persuade it to stick in the glue there. Right, so that's that lower area done. I think I'm going to try and add a bit more just around here. So of course that means spotting a few more lumps of PVA. Of course this dries clear, so I don't really need to worry too much about the overspill. I want to set myself a couple of ferns here because I'm going to make a little short reel. Before I switch over to something else. So I'll just finish these spots of glue that I've got and then I'll sign off for a little while. It's very easy to pass half an hour quite quickly when you're having fun. To get these to print or to cut, I've had to put a little circle of material in the middle to hold it all together. So what I'm doing by trying to sort of squish it in at the centre is to hide that little circle. But it also makes it look a little bit more realistic in that it stands up and just doesn't lie flat. Right, one more. And I'm going to call this done for what I'm doing here. I'm just going to then sneakily make a few little portrait clips for my own purpose. So thank you guys for watching so far. I hope you enjoyed that little bit, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon. Yeah, hedgerows are fun, aren't they, Lee? Right, happy modelling. I hope you get some productive stuff done tonight.